Is this on? Yes. What's good? So I'm Seb, and I just wanted to, I don't know, make a video about this because I witnessed a lot of changes going up the ranks, and I really wanted to talk about it. I don't know why. I don't do YouTube. I don't do videos. I'm not a good editor whatsoever. So I'm not professional at anything, but I don't see anyone talking about this. So I wanted to talk about it. So here are my two teams. I'll talk about this later. This is the team that got me to Ultra Ball, and you can kind of see it's kind of blame, I guess. I am a huge Bisharp fan. A huge Bisharp fan. Bisharp is probably my third or second favorite mon. I guess technically fourth because I would put the whole Triku line as my top three. Um, but he's not in the game. Triku's not in the game, so when I found out Bisharp had an evolution, and I use Bisharp in every VGC competition that I've been in, so that would be Sun and Moon and Sword and Shields. But I don't really play the ladder series, so like with the legendaries and restricted format, so I guess it's not that big of a deal. Um, so yeah, once I found out there was a King Gambit, that King Gambit existed, I figured I have to use it. I don't care if it's bad, I don't care if it's anti-meta, I don't care if it's meta, I don't care if it's the worst Pokemon ever, I'm gonna use it. And me and my friend Shiny hunted it, and we both got one shiny each from it in like 18 minutes, so pretty valid. Just fix this here because I have you as Steel because I haven't changed it. So I caught it as a Steel Terra. Preferably, I actually would want it to be either Ghost or Dark. Ghost is obvious because 4 times weakness to fighting. Switch that away, booyah. But Dark, my team actually is really reliant on priorities. So yeah, I would just want the strongest Sucker Punch possible. Excuse me. So yeah, I went full adamant, full attack, full HP. I just care about hitting hard. And I'm like 55 base speed, you're not gonna outpace anything no matter what, so kept it there. But in case I fight a King Gambit that's under Trick Room, if I stop them from using Trick Room, I will be outpacing their King Gambit. So I also weird thing, Pika Analytics or Pikalytics, I don't know what's called, one of the two. No one uses assurance on this thing, and I don't understand why. I guess because they use it in Trick Room, but I still don't think. I guess under Trick Room, Concal Clav, what was it called? Concal Cleave, okay, would be better under Trick Room if this thing is outpacing everything. But I'm like, even with Bisharp, I use Assurance, and I'm like, this thing is even slower than Bisharp. It's gonna be moving second at least compared to everyone else I have on the field. I'll get to them in a bit afterward. And you know, Assurance is probably my favorite move ever, other than Sucker Punch. I always run Sucker Punch, but Assurance is always in one of my VGC teams. And yeah, like Concal Cleave, sure. If you don't double up into a spot, Concal Cleave is better. But Assurance just hits like a truck. If you double into a slot, as long as the Pokemon doesn't resist the 2 moves, you go for it. Even if it resists like Fake Out, like it's a Rock type and you use Fake Out on it and then use Assurance on it the same turn, it's gonna die. Nothing's gonna live a boosted Assurance from a Life Orb Max Attack Adamant King Gambit. But yeah, I use Protect because it is a slow Pokemon, so I actually only run Protect I think on 3 of the mons in this team. I'll get to them in a bit. Now Annihilate. So this is the set I used. I don't have Define on it, unfortunately. I caught it with Vital Spirit, which is unfortunate, but I could change it, no problem, but I'm like, whatever. I'm just gonna use King Gambit right away anyway. I mean, Final Gambit on it anyway. Oh, I just realized they both have Gambit in their name. That's weird. But yeah, surprisingly, I said that, and I said it didn't matter, but I actually barely ever went for Final Gambit. I mainly actually go for U-Turn in close combat and Rage Fist. So yeah, any move other than Final Gambit. Rage Fist, surprisingly, is good on this because with this set, it survives a lot of hits with max HP. So King Rage Fist. Why am I just keep saying King Gambit in front of everything. Rage Fist obviously gets stronger every time we get hit, and even with just max HP, no defensive investment, it lives a lot of hits. Like I actually like almost one hit KO'd in a Zoom roll like last night because I took 3 hits, and yeah, I took 3 hits, which is amazing on its own. Yeah, this thing is mainly just a pivot, and I was really afraid of Amoonguss, even though I could. The only thing I can really do to Amoonguss in this team is hit it with Assurance after hitting it with something else. So I was really afraid of Amoonguss, and I thought Final Gambit was the perfect way to counter it. It won't one hit KO Amoonguss like ever, but unless they don't have max HP. But it's a good way to cripple it, because then anything else would pretty much kill it. But yeah, like close combat I'll get into with Murkrow was I used a lot more often because I realized that's the only way I can counter Hydreigon, because Hydreigon actually gave me a lot of problems in the beginning. Surprisingly, because I didn't expect a lot of Hydreigons. I was mainly afraid of Arcanites and Amoongusses and Golden Go, Murkrow, but yeah. Now this was my Meowscarada set in this team. I did change it when I made the next team. This thing, well, actually, let me change, because I actually had it Adamant, not Jolly. Oh, crap. There you go. Yeah, so I actually had it Adamant instead of Jolly. I pretty much just wanted to hit anything as hard as I can. Maybe on this set, if you use this set, maybe Protein would be better. But I didn't want to make another one, so I just stayed with Overgrow, because initially my idea was to do the Focus Sash Overgrow Flower Trick set, but I ended up going against it for some reason, so I just kept it like this, and it was pretty cool. Like, Masquerade is my second favorite Pokemon this gen, personally, so I knew I wanted to use it no matter what. And in Sword and Shield, Cinderace, who's probably my second favorite, it would probably line, so it would be Trico line, Cinderace, Scorbunny line, and then the Bisharp Ponyard line, I guess, would be my top 3. Mainly because I'm a football fan, so I have to like Cinderace by default. But in Sword and Shield, that popular Blaziken Bisharp duo, I replicated it with Cinderace Bisharp, and I did really, really good with it. Like, my all-time high was after the the second DLC expansion. I was still using that duo, and yeah, it was pretty amazing. And I decided to, well, Cinderace is in the Dex. When it comes out, I'll probably replace a Pokemon in it, and I'll talk about that later, to put Cinderace back in, because that's my guy. I have to. And Meowscarada is probably the most similar Pokemon to Cinderace Blaziken in this Dex. So I used Meowscarada, Kingambit, and I also realized there's not a lot of Fairy types in this meta. It's really strange. I only really see Sylveons and some Hatterines. Maybe I'm forgetting someone. I'm not sure. I guess you could count Playrough, Meowscarada. I see that. That's probably the most common Fairy type I've seen, because they use Protein with it, as they should. But yeah, this thing just hits like a truck. Tailwind with Murkrow. Then not a lot of things are going to live that Choice Banded Flower Trick. Especially if you terrorize it. Terrestrialize it. Which is terrorizing opponents, because that's even worse. No one's going to live that. Unless they resist, which happens pretty often. Now, these two are pretty standard. I just copied the EV spreads. I actually messed up a little bit on this Garchomp. I don't know what I did. I think it's at 105 special defense. I know I screwed up somewhere when I tried to make it. Let me just check. Were the Terra types correct? I changed it. I told myself I forgot something, but I don't know. I was very lucky. I got a 5-star raid, I'm pretty sure it was, with a Steel Garchomp, and I was like, that's perfect. Steel, I think, is its best defensive terrestrialization. So when I saw I got a Steel one, I was like, okay, let's take advantage of it. I'm not a big Garchomp fan. You'll barely ever see me use, like, honestly, you'll barely ever see me use pseudo legendaries in general. But yeah, I just used it because I'm like, I have a good Pokemon, might as well use it. And this was a set. It combined pretty well. It would live a lot of hits. You can see the spread is pretty even. It's somewhat pacey, not too pacey, but it's pretty bulky for a Garchomp set. So it'll take a lot of hits. So I would just I pretty much always had a free Swords Dance, no matter what. And Swords Dance with Murkrow Tailwind, and then spamming Earthquake and or Rock Slide. Just terrorizes opponents. Same thing with Golden Goal, same concept. This is what I forgot. You would want Terra Steel, but I caught mine with Ghost, unfortunately, and it's a pretty easy fix. I'm pretty sure I got any of the gimme ghouls with Steel. I just can't get the 99 coins to make another one. I don't want to spend the Terra shards. Yeah, this was a set. I just didn't know what to do with the team, and I just thought, let me use the most OP Mon, or most used Mon, maybe both at the moment. And it's probably Golden Goal in my opinion. Yeah, I had Terra Ghost. It was sometimes useful, but you barely ever see me terrestrialize this because it's unfortunately got the wrong Terra typing for its needs. But yeah, it was the same concept with Garchomp. Nasty Plot, it would take a hit most of the time. Tailwind's up. Nasty Plot, Make It Rain, hits like a truck. Easy as that. I could see why you would use choice specs, so you don't have to set up the Nasty Plots, but I figured like it's a bit common, so I feel like I would want to like take my opponents by surprise, which is a lot of my thinking, honestly. And use Murkrow. I did not like the fact that personally I thought I had to use Murkrow, but I actually ran some calcs and thought of ideas, and I couldn't think of any ideas at the time. I don't know why I thought of different ideas later on, which I will talk about in a bit on my second team. But at the time, I thought Wolf Glick made a video, his first video when he reached first place for the first time, with the Dodonzo, Flamingo, Tatsuguri strat, and I was like, everyone's gonna copy that. I was actually completely wrong. There were some people who tried to do it, but they never used it against me. I never faced a single person who did that strat. In my eyes, I'm like, okay, I need a Haze Murkrow. Like, that's the only way to counter Dodonzo other than my Meowscarada, but I just thought I needed a Murkrow, and the only way I thought to counter Tailwind was to Tailwind yourself, and yeah, excuse me, damn it. So I did think of bringing Kilowattrel instead of, when I realized I needed to change the team because I personally realized going up the tiers, a lot less people start using rental teams, or at least the basic rental teams, to my knowledge. Because I don't use rental teams. I'm really against the idea of rental teams. I don't think they should be allowed, especially in the high tiers. Like I think maybe at the low tiers, like Poke Great and maybe Ultra Ball. But I think after Ultra Ball, well, personally, I would want them only allowed in casuals. But I could see why they're bringing this because not a lot of people know or want to create their own teams, because it's kind of complicated. Even though it's getting easier every generation, I do feel like that's why they have rented codes, because it makes more people want to play competitive and VGC. But I personally wish it kind of is stupid. That's a red front all day, but but I just thought a lot of people would be using Tailwind and the Donzo strats, and I thought the only way to counter that was hazing for the Donzo and Tailwinding against Tailwind was the only way to counter Tailwind, which I figured I was wrong, and I will talk about that in a bit in my second team. But yeah, the main plans for this team was really, I would usually either lead Murkrow with either of these four, sorry. But yeah, it would be 5 different duos. So Murkrow and Golden Dingo, Tailwind, Nasty Plot, Make It Rain, pretty self-explanatory. Swords Dance, spread moves, or just Tailwind, Flower Trick, something that could get nuked. And Annihilate's probably the weird one. I realize Choice Scarf is absolutely useless if your opponent has Tailwind up and you don't. So when I kept getting destroyed by Hydreigons, I figured the only way to counter that is because a lot of people would start Hydreigon Murkrow against me. I thought, okay, maybe it's something with my team that they see Hydreigon counters a lot, which I guess makes sense, because Hydreigon gets, obviously, the Dark-type move, which would be super effective to Golden Go. Gets a Fire-type Heat Wave, so that's super effective to 3 of my Mons. And the Dragon-type is super effective to my Garchomp, and Steel Garchomp is pretty common, so the Heat Wave would be super effective anyway. And it would probably usually nuke Annihilate if they have a normal Annihilate set that isn't Choice Scarfed. And I figured the only way to kill a Hydreigon would be to outpace it and close combat it, and if it's steel or doesn't terrestrialize, it's dead. If it's fire, it would probably live. Sometimes I would go for Final Gambit, realizing there's a chance it's fire. Who knows? I don't. So yeah. Yeah, and King Gambit, if I didn't lead Murkrow, I would probably lead King Gambit with Annihilate, Meowscarada. Pretty much U-turning and then assurancing Pokemon would be safe. One Pokemon I was really scared of was Torkoal. So that's why my Murkrow is actually fully special defensive, because it actually tanks, not tanks, I guess it tanks. It takes it takes 3 eruptions to kill, 2 if it terrestrializes. And you know, people don't really terrestrialize right in the beginning. So yeah, I would lead Murkrow Garchomp against Torkoals. There wasn't really much I could do. I would beat it. I would just spam Earthquake with Garchomp and taunt the other Pokemon, which would usually be like a support mon. Or Oranguru, is that what it's called? Oranguru, right? Oranguru usually ran Mental Herb. So if that was the case, and Oranguru went for Protect, no, if Torkoal went for Protect the first turn, and Oranguru would go for Trick Room, and it was holding Mental Herb, and I taunted it, I would just taunt it the next turn, and just keep spamming Earthquake, because it would take like 3 turns, and obviously when it takes a hit, it does more damage to Torkoal. The power of eruption gets weaker. So that was my plan for Torkoals, especially with Oranguru. Either way, that was my lead against any Torkoal lead. Whenever I see Torkoal, that's my lead, because either way, it's a good lead in general. Not a lot of things can counter it. But yeah, I realized this team also suffered a lot against the bottom of snow teams. But yeah, it was alright. It was a pretty basic team, I feel. I think a lot of these Pokemon are highly used. I think they're all in the top 10 at least. Maybe except for Meowscarada and King Gambit. But I know they're still up there. Like, they're at least everything's top 20 in usage percentage. So that's why I was kind of annoyed at myself, because I actually really hate, like, Sword and Shield. Cinderace was definitely always used, but King Gambit, Bisharp was not even used. And I would use Bisharp no matter what, and it worked extremely well. And the thing I love about this team is that's what I was saying earlier. I forgot to mention Defiant. Arcanine, thank you very much. If you have an Arcanine, you switch into my King Gambit. You just boost them up. And hopefully I have a good lead. My second one is a good counter to Arcanine. Arcanines don't get one shot by +1 Life Orb Sucker Punch, unfortunately. But if I double up to it, it would probably die. But there's a good chance it would be afraid of the Sucker Punch. It would just go for Will-O-Wisp. Not a big deal. I mean, sometimes it is, but at the same time, I would double it anyway, so the Will-O-Wisp wouldn't matter. It would probably still burn the King Gambit, but still, like, it's out of the way. And burn is obviously not that bad if you're already at +1 with Life Orb. It's a little bit less than neutral, so yeah. And people don't tend to lead Arcanine. I've faced Arcanines at the end, strangely enough, this generation. Yeah. I actually thought of bringing in Arcanine. Maybe I'll talk about that later. Not sure. But that was my team. That was my strat. I pretty much just looked at the strats I'm afraid of and how to counter them with the Pokemon I like. I don't try to follow meta. I just want to win the way I want to win. So like in FIFA, same case. I will use my players that I like. I'm not going to use Mbappe because he's the best player in the game. No, I will use Ben Yedder because he's one of my favorite players of all time. So yeah, in this case, King Gambit's one of my favorite Pokemon of all time. And the only reason I actually brought Annihilate, funnily enough, was because I was just randomly playing with a friend in the Union Circle, and a shiny Mankey just came out of nowhere. So that's the only reason why I use it. I mean, maybe I would have used it anyway. I honestly can't be sure. But yeah, I just found a shiny Annihilate, and I'm like, hell yeah, I'm using that. And of course, this thing's shiny too. But yeah, let's talk about my second team. So this is a team that got me actually into Master Ball tier. I realize, how I mentioned before, a lot of people stop using the basic teams and start using their own teams once you get up to high Ultra Ball. Ultra Ball is only tier 10, I'm pretty sure. So once I reach like, I went on like a win streak in Ultra Ball. Like I was 1 win away, and I went on a 3 losing streak because I was still using the old team. And I'm like, what the hell? Everyone's bringing out some weird ass Pokemon. I'm like, sure, go ahead, you do you, man. But yeah, I King Gambit and Annihilate, same exact thing. Didn't change it. Upset. I mean, yeah, I didn't change it. I just have to change this. I mean, Escarada actually changed. I wanted to keep the choice band on it. Hold on a minute. What the hell are you doing here? You are not. You go away. I'll do that later. Escarada was. Unfortunately, I took the choice. I wanted to keep the choice band set, but I actually gave it to Palafin. We'll talk about that later. This was really good. I honestly like the idea of having a taunt user that doesn't have Prankster, because then you could just taunt anything. Hatterene still can get taunts, but you can at least taunt the Ndidi if you catch my drift. Like if that's their lead, Ndidi will only use follow up once, and that was my idea. Follow me, sorry. So yeah, and this thing just does a lot of damage. I was thinking maybe Sucker Punch isn't great. Maybe just knock off now. I thought of it. I haven't done it. Maybe I'll do it in the future. I don't see myself changing from this team for a while. Maybe. Okay, not sure. Ceruledge is probably... When I saw Ceruledge, I'm like, holy goddamn, this Pokemon is amazing. So I really wanted to use it, and I didn't know that it was actually really good. When I looked at it at first, I'm like, it's mediocre. I don't see myself bringing it into VGC. Now I'm seeing people actually use it a lot. How Wolfglick actually said it's better than Armaluge, which I actually don't think so, but you do you, man. I just really love this Pokemon's design, and it's probably my favorite other than Meowscarada. It's definitely between them two. I mentioned Meowscarada was my favorite earlier, but I forgot I did say Ceruledge was my favorite before the game came out and I saw the leaks. So yeah. This is a pretty common set. You'll pretty much always will see Terra Grass on this thing. And this EV spread I just saw in a Shady Penguins video, actually. The first time I saw Ceruledge in VGC that wasn't against me was in Shady Penguins video, and I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna copy that EV spread. I guess it's a common thing. I gave it Will-O-Wisp. I wasn't a fan of Terra Blast, even though it is pretty useful. But I don't see myself really needing a Terra Blast Grass. I only have the Grass for the defense, which is really useful. Like Torkoal, how I mentioned before, I was afraid of Torkoal. Torkoal gets completely countered by this thing. If it goes for Earth Power, I'm Terra Grass. It's not going to do anything. Because usually Torkoal is holding Charcoal, and Charcoal doesn't boost Earth Power. If it's using Choice Specs and it goes for Earth Power on me, I might take a bit more damage, but I won't even take half at least. And it will still do... And now he's locked into Earth Power, so he can't go for Eruption. So, unless he switches out. So I think this thing is a win-win. I barely ever use Will-O-Wisp though. I was thinking of just getting Protect on this instead of Will-O-Wisp. I still don't see why Terra Blast would help, especially because I have Meowscarada on the back. Not many Pokemon that I can think of at the top of my head like countered by Terra Blast Grass. But yeah, I really like this mon. It can cripple a lot of Pokemon with Will-O-Wisp and bulk up. Will-O-Wisping just lets you bulk up. It's pretty cool. Palafin, I shiny hunted this mon for so long. Like, I haven't even finished hatching. You could probably not read this at all. But yeah, yeah, you can't read it. My bad. December 13th, 2022. I started this. That was, I believe, today is the 15th, so it was Tuesday. And I started Saturday night, and it took me 603 eggs. So yeah, I really wanted this thing shiny. That's why Meowscarada doesn't have Choice Band anymore, because this thing has Choice Band. I figured Choice Band instead of Choice Scarf because of this last Pokemon that I forgot to put. But yeah, this thing hits insanely strong. This thing is really, really strong, especially with that Choice Band. Jet Punch just one-shots everything. It's insane. Yeah, I figured this Pokemon was going to be OP as hell. And the usage rate on VGC is really low compared to what I thought, which is surprising. And the Pokemon that enables it, I'm using Grimmsnarl. I used a Grimmsnarl, and I think I used Citrus Berry. Fake out. Spirit Break, Parting Shot, and Thunder Wave. That's the gimmicky niche, whatever. And what I actually did was just I think I did this. Yeah, so I'm not a big fan of foul play on Grimmsnarl, to be honest, because it's base 120 attack. Even with no attack investment, it's still going to hit pretty well for a support mod especially. And I just really thought Fake Out is amazing, especially because my lead would a lot of the times just be Grimmsnarl Palafin, and I would Fake Out and get an easy flip turn out. And dude, flip turn, even though it's base 70 attack without transforming, I still do a good amount of damage because it's still max attack choice banded. Even with base 70, it's still going to do considerable amount of damage. I remember one time my lead was Murkrow. The lead I was against were Murkrow and Sylveon, and it was those two out. And I don't know what the hell this guy was thinking. He terrestrializes Sylveon into fire, even though you're against a Palafin and a Grimmsnarl. Who I don't know what he was thinking. Why did terrestrialize first turn? I faked out the Murkrow. Excuse me. Murkrow couldn't use Tailwind, and I just flip turn and it one shot the Sylveon. So yeah, it even without transforming, the flip turn is gonna do a lot of damage. Sometimes I just start up against Murkrow and I just fake out and flip turn to Murkrow right away. And if it's actually got no defensive investment, because a lot of Murkrows are usually mixed, I feel. I think that's the most common EV spread for Murkrow. Not 100% sure. If it's like mine, just no physical defense, it gets one. I'm pretty sure it killed it. Or it's really close. But I actually really like having a crippled Murkrow stuck out in the field instead of it just being dead outright. Because it's just, I forgot the term. I actually just learned the term last night. Is it like an Islander Pokemon? Dead Pokemon? I don't know. I just call it Death Fodder. Not even. No, that's not the right term. It's a useless mom out there that you're forced to have, pretty much. Because nothing in my team really is scared of foul play, I guess, except for this Palafin. But it doesn't even do that much, surprisingly. I thought it would do. But just like a little bit less than half. And yeah, either way, I just usually only ever use Jet Punch, I think, and flip turn to switch out and then Jet Punch. I think I only used Wave Crash once, and that was because it was a game I already lost, and I thought of like the possibilities, and it was like, what move do I have to lock myself into to win? And I was like, it's Wave Crash is the only option. It was against like a Goodra, so yeah, it really didn't matter what I went for. I guess Close Combat would have been the strongest, but I think it was actually like, it was Terrestrialized. I just remember which Terrestrialization it was. But yeah, that's a lot of my leads. A lot of the games I start, that's my lead. Palafin, Grimmsnarl, Fake Out, Flip Turn. A lot of people expect screens, so I actually love leading Grimmsnarl against Annihilate because they will just go for Brick Break a lot of the time, and it's useless because I don't go for screens, even though that's the most common thing people do with Grimmsnarl. I don't do it. Spirit Break does a lot of damage. One game I was playing against the Danzo Tatsugiri and I was doing so well. I outplayed him like crazy, but he got a lucky accuracy drop of Muddy Water with his Tatsugiri, and I think it killed my King Gambit. So it was a 1v1 with my Grimmsnarl, and I guess it was a defensive Tatsugiri, like max HP instead of max speed, and it lived one Spirit Break, but that was. Before I used that Spirit Break, I used Pouring Shot on it, so it was already -1, and it did less than half. And then I hit it with another Spirit Break, and it lived with like a third of health left, and then it hits me again with Muddy Water, and it critted. And I got so upset because that was the game I needed to win to get to Master Ball rank. So, excuse me. So yeah, I got really upset. Before I reached Master Ball rank, I won a couple losses with this team, but they were like stupid. Like, one of them was against like, it's not stupid. It was just really bad luck. Like, one of them was the slacking. It was a really really fun strat. I won't lie. The lead was slacking Medicham, and slacking would for Body Slam first turn and paralyze Grimmsnarl right away. And the Medicham went for Fake Out on my Grimmsnarl, and the Grimmsnarl stored Medicham, so I couldn't use my Fake Out. And yeah, it paralyzed, and I got like 3 couldn't move fully powered turns. So yeah, and the strat, I'll tell you right now, was really creative. he gave Slacking, he used skill swap from Medicham to Slacking. So that's pure power, which is the same thing as huge power, I'm pretty sure, to Slacking. And Turret goes to Medicham, and he just switches out Medicham. Pretty fun strat when it gets pulled off. But the thing is, I would have won because I actually ended up burning the Slacking with Ceruledge. It was at -3 attack, but I just couldn't attack with my Grimmsnarl. It was pretty much that useless Pokemon for me, and it lost me the game, unfortunately. Pretty upsetting. But yeah, I like this team a lot. It's more of my style. A lot more counterplay. Yeah. So Thunderwave, I realized Prankster Thunderwave. Gen 5. If you play VGC Gen 5, you know exactly who I'm talking about. But yeah, it was broken. And I figured that's the best way to other than having all my mons like 1, 2, 3, all 4, all my Pokemon have priority moves, but Ceruledge and Meowscarada probably don't hit. Oh no, Annihilape doesn't have one. 4 of my mons have priority moves, and this thing has Thunder Wave. The priority moves for Ceruledge and Meowscarada don't really hit hard, but Kingambit and Palafin do really hit hard. So yeah, Tailwind's not really that needed. I guess I can go Tailwind, flip turn 1, but this thing, like I realized Murkrow's not that great. It's just the only priority Tailwind setter in the meta right now, and what does it do after? Haze, Taunt, Foul Play, and a lot of my Pokemon, like except for Ceruledge, would just eat that Foul Play up pretty, like, great. So yeah, I actually like facing Murkrows now because I'm just gonna have you keep that Murkrow, and after you set up Tailwind, you're stuck with it for the rest of the game. So yeah, I personally like this team a lot more. I don't have the meta Pokemons like Golden Gold and Garchomp, and it's better. Like this team is a lot better, and yeah, the way to think is think of what people are going to use, and think of ways to counter their the most common strats. Not to I don't like making up my own strat. I just bring Pokemon that counter other strats. Like I just think at the top of my head, what strats am I going to play against? Torkoal, it's completely countered. I already explained that. Trick Room is depending on the Trick Room. Like it's always a 50-50. Like one game I excuse me. I started up against Hatterene and Mimikyu, and I forgot. This is why I remember Hatterene's ability now, because I went for Taunt on the Hatterene, thinking it's a 50-50. One of them's going to go for Trick Room, or both of them going to go for Trick Room. There's nothing I can do to stop it. I forgot about Hatterene's ability, and it went for Protect. So if I remembered about the ability and went for Taunt on a Mimikyu, I would be perfect. Like, it would have been good. Like, I would have been set. But instead, I went for Taunt on the Protecting Hatterene, and he got Trick Room off, and he swept me. But yeah, that's how I play. That's my style. And lastly, I'm going to talk about some feature ideas I have for the teams. I'm thinking of getting rid of Annihilape for Dragapult. I think if I get Dragapult, I will give this thing Will-O-Wisp and get rid of Will-O-Wisp and Ceruledge probably. Probably give it Protect instead of Will-O-Wisp. I'm a big fan of this set. I also think it counters, like, it doesn't really counter Indeedee Hatterene, but the Indeedee gets one shot pretty much from Dragon Dart and another attacking move. But Hatterene will probably still get up Trick Room no matter what. But I think I could get around it. But yeah, I just like the idea of having a fast mon with Will-O-Wisp, other than Ceruledge, who's not that fast. So yeah, before Grimmsnarl, I was actually dead set on getting the Sylveon set into my team. I just saw this spread somewhere. I think it was Cybertron's video, not sure. But I really liked it. I like the idea of Hyper Voice, Tux, Throat Spray boosted, Terra type boosted. I think that hits like a truck, but I have not played against it, and I've not suffered against it yet, so I'm not sure. I've only played against that Fire, Terra, Sylveon. There have been Fairy Terrestrialized Sylveons, but I actually haven't really. I would either take one Hyper Voice. I think one time I just sacked my Grimmsnarl and I just killed it with a Steel Terra from my Kingambit, because I was like Steel Terra so I can resist Hyper Voice. So yeah. And there's 2 Mousehold sets. I'm not sure which one I want. This one's obviously a support one. This one's an offensive one. I feel like the offensive one would be funny as hell. I don't think people expect just full out damage from this thing, Maybe if I do this, I would do this instead. But yeah, instead of voting for Frangor, I would go Technician, go Max Attack, and just spam the hell out of Population Bomb. Not sure if it will work. It probably would just die in one hit. Who knows? This one would take at least 2 at least. This is the support one. I thought of this instead of Grimmsnarl. Redirection is OP as hell, and it's not great to play against. So I really figured to abuse it, but I don't really have any more setup mons anymore. I just go attack, attack, attack. I don't set up. I just hit right away. So Follow Me would just really just have the other Pokemon survive. Well, I kind of prefer just the idea of having 2 Pokemon out attacking at the same time. Palmon is these 2 I thought of. Tinkaton, I really loved its design. I played with it in my story playthrough, and I was like, I'm using this Pokemon competitive, but it just doesn't look. It didn't look that great, but I'm realizing it could be great. It's gonna tank special attacks. My only problem is I'd probably want an Intimidate user alongside it because its physical defense is not that great. But yeah, I love Assault Vested Pokemon with Fake Out. I think it's amazing. And Gigaton Hammer with this EV spread should do a lot of damage no matter what, unless it resists it hard. I was thinking of getting rid of. Well, okay, initially I had Knockoff here. Part of me thinks just go support, full support, so it would be Knockoff here and Faint. But I'm not sure. I really don't know. Because the only way this thing would ever do damage is with Gigaton Hammer. So I figured maybe go Faint Knockoff instead of Play Rough, because Play Rough won't do that much damage unless it's super effective. But who knows? Not sure. The only Pokemon I'm really afraid of that Play Rough would be super effective to is probably Grimmsnarl, and it would just get one shot by Gigaton Hammer anyways. Palmon is an interesting one. I'm not sure about the set. I figured maybe this is good. It could do support and damage, especially with Focus Sash. I think support and damage with Focus Sash is great, but not 100% sure. I also thought, screw that, go full support. Just go this all the way down, this all the way up, and kind of the same thought process for Annihilate. Close combat is still gonna do a lot of damage no matter what, even though it doesn't have attack investment. But I would get rid of Double Shocks for Nuzzle, just to spread paralysis. And then for Grimmsnarl, I'll probably get rid of Thunder Wave for something else. But who knows? Priority Thunder Wave is still great, I think. But yeah, these are future ideas. I really think the most expendable, unfortunately, most expendable members of my team right now are Annihilate and Meowscarada. But if I were to get rid of Annihilate for, let's say, the what's it called? If I were to get rid of Annihilate for the Dragapult, then I could move the Choice Scarf to Palafin, and then the Choice Band back to Meowscarada, which is an improvement for Meowscarada. It's a buff to Meowscarada and a nerf for Palafin. I think the Choice Band for Palafin's a lot better than the Choice Scarf, especially because I just go for Jet Punch anyways. But who knows? I think Choice Scarf is its most common item. I'm not 100% sure on that, but that's just my idea. I don't know. I don't know how this is gonna do. So I hope you enjoyed. I do want to make more. If I make a new team, I also don't like the fact that I'm obviously not a big video guy. So if someone who watches the video is probably someone who does play competitive already, and they're probably gonna know my team if they face me. So who knows? But yeah, hopefully this was interesting to you, and I'm out. Thank you.